Oh, yeah, it's stuck. It's stuck saying going live. Oh, now it says you're live. Weird. All right. Hey, how about that? I'll wait a moment for things to catch up. Was that universal? Were all people trying to watch on YouTube, not getting anything? I find that highly suspicious. Yeah, it seemed like it was spinning its little wheels until I went and clicked back on that tab. Highly weird, YouTube. Well, sorry about that if you were on YouTube and you missed some stuff there. But I'll give you that one right there. That's the coupon code for today. So if you missed that on YouTube, that will save you 10% off in the shop today. The coupon code is InkSpot. Beyond that, I talked about some freebies, which you can find out about going over to adafruit.com/free. And what else? Did a little recap of this week's product pick of the week. And you can always find the live stream archive as well as a little 1-minute clip of those over on the Adafruit YouTube channel. Yeah, sorry about that. That's so bizarre. I clicked start stream. YouTube started spinning its little wheel like it was going to start. I rashly moved past that and assumed that it had finished. It had not. Maybe it just took time and it was a coincidence that I went back to it. But that is the main stuff that we covered. And then as I like to do at the beginning of the show, give you a little preview of what's coming up or just let you know, table of contents. Had the coupon code, had the recap of the product pick of the week. I will be doing a CircuitPython Parsec. Going to do a recap of a Learn guide that just came out. Talk a little bit about our upcoming project with the E-Ink slow movie player, as well as go over a little bit of video scaler stuff, DVI to other things that I've been playing around with. So, yeah, 9 minutes of mystery there. Sorry about that. I'm glad it's back up and running, and thanks for mentioning something over in the chats. That's helpful. All right. I need a little better monitor. Little side monitor to see if YouTube is actually streaming. How's the other stuff? Looks like some of the other things are going. Maybe. Huh. What on earth happened? Yeah, it looks like Twitch is streaming. Looks like X is streaming. YouTube now claims Facebook. Well, how about that? Okay. Maybe it's the daylight savings time shenanigans. Let's blame that. Okay, well, now we're up and running. Let's dive into a CircuitPython Parsec. CircuitPython Parsec. Okay. For the CircuitPython Parsec today, we have the continuing saga of Spice Invaders. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and relaunch this from the top so you can see. I've got my feather and a little sharp memory display here. I have a little Nintendo NES controller plugged in. There was the splash screen that we worked on last time, and now I have upgraded the one enemy to the 55 enemies that I think, from me looking at real Space Invaders and counting, is a little more accurate. I think it depends on the console. I remember on Atari 2600 it was like many fewer. It was like 12 of them or something. It couldn't fit much. But the arcade one, I think, is a set of 11 columns and 5 rows. And as you can see now, they're moving as a block. We still have some pretty decent frame rates. Nice refresh here. As you can see when I move my, and I've got this here is what I'm moving that with, by the way. I didn't get the camera all the way zoomed out. And now when I shoot enemies, we've got individual ones blowing up here. You can see there's a little explosion animation that runs for a frame or two. And then moves on. I'm very safe because these guys still don't shoot at me, and they won't even crush me if they get to the bottom. But this is going to need some refinement, of course, on the movement and difficulty. But I just want to show you how We've progressed from having the one enemy to having the big group of them. So if you take a look at this in CircuitPython, not too much has changed. We're still using the same display I/O and frame buffer I/O to draw to the screen, vector I/O for some of those shapes, creating a display shape rectangle for an individual enemy, line for the explosions, importing the sharp display, and then when I get to enemy creation time, I've got some variables here I'm starting with. So this big block here, alien grid properties. We have the width of one alien, the little rectangles, and eventually we'll probably get some BMPs in there maybe to make them look a little more interesting. That might be faster than a collection of squares. And so I've got the width and height of an enemy, pretty typical ratio, proportion for a Space Invader alien. Number of columns, number of rows, the spacing between them on X and Y. I think I'll increase this on Y. I think they have a little more of a gap between them vertically. How many steps they move, how many pixels they move each time they chunk to the side. The direction they're going, either left to right or right to left, which is a state switch that flips. Then the amount that they drop down, 12 pixels they're dropping down when they reach an edge. And then I have an alien move timer that keeps track of how long they move, sit still, and the move delay is part of that as well. Then I have a starting position for the top left alien, and then everything else is built off of that. So we get this one 18 by 13 rectangle in the upper left corner, just spaced out a little bit from the top. And then I do this. I create this dictionary, essentially, that has a loop for every row and every column. We go through and we set a proper start position for each of them. So that's a little dot in the upper left corner, basically, that we keep track of. And then we build a rectangle. So rectangle at that whatever position it is, the standard width and height that I've set, and then we fill it with black from the palette. We append that to the alien rectangle group into the screen group, and then we have a little print statement here that shows me they've gotten created. Then the rest of this is just projectile explosion, function for create explosion, clear explosion. Now we have a function for count alive aliens. We're just keeping track of how many of them are there. I'm not sure if I'll need this in the end, but right now we're using that maybe for things like points when we start tallying up scores. And then in the main loop, we're still doing the same control pad checking to see if I'm moving left and right. The ship movement, and then checking buttons to see if it's time to fire off a projectile or not. Then when we do create a projectile, we can check for a collision, and now we're checking on all of them. Now this is something I might also tighten up so that we only have to check a certain set of them, but right now we're just checking to see if we have if we're within the left-right boundary and bottom boundary of any of those alien rectiles. So we just run through that full list of them. If one is hit, then we create that alien explosion right at that spot there, get rid of the projectile, and then reduce that alive count. Then let me see, the movement timer you can see here, same sort of thing as before. We check to see, is it time to move? But now, instead of just moving one, we wrap through the full list of every remaining alien. I am pulling those from the list when one gets destroyed, so it ostensibly gets faster as we go. And then we have this, instead of just checking for one box getting to the edge of the screen or not, we're checking to see if the rightmost one or the leftmost one has hit the edge. And I've got it dropping down and left now. I want to fix that because they don't actually do that in the real game. They drop straight down and then over. And so that right there is, let me go ahead and restart that so we can see that in action a little bit. That is Space Invaders, and that is the, let me shoot some of these away here. That is how you can turn one alien enemy into a big group of them inside of CircuitPython in our Space Invaders game. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec. CircuitPython Parsec. And I wanted to share this nice image of some aliens in the Discord there. Is that the UFO at the top? Does it have the, yeah, it has those little, it almost looks like an alien itself, but I think that's the UFO at the very top there. Thanks for sharing that, some nice. Yeah, you can see they're not all the same width, but I think the widest ones were that proportion that I had there, and then the smaller ones will fit within that. So, continuing saga there. Okay. Next up, let me head on over to the Learn site. So if you go to adafruit.com, click on Learn up at the top there, you can see the Fruit Jam Sega Genesis guide is out and ready. So this is the one that I've been working on, just finished writing that up. Again, huge thanks to Frank Hodemakers and others for working on the emulator. Frank did the port of Genesis and Pico Mega Drive for the Murmulator board and got that working on the Fruit Jam in specific, so dealing with the particulars of the I2S audio, the USB hubs for controller, even added in things like a little VU meter for sound on the NeoPixels, some button support. And you can see it here in action. I actually went out and looked for some homebrew games, some free homebrew games, and put those in a list so you can check out some stuff if you don't have any ROMs of your own. This one here is called Project MD for Project Mega Drive, and it's really nice. It's got some cool tricks like these reflections and stuff at the bottom. I know that GIF is a little frenetic. And a lot of variation from level to level. So that's the first sort of world you can pick from that you see there. This is the second one where we're kind of inside of a circuit board world. Really cute, fun little platformer to check out. So here I've got a video of it in action. I can play that and let me turn off the audio of that. So there you can see we get the menu to pick your ROM from. So those ROMs are stored on SD card. Here I am just starting this game up. And one of the things, as I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, is that there's a really nice officially licensed USB controller from Retrobit, and it's officially licensed from Sega. So it's a really nice clone of a Sega Genesis controller. In this case, it's a 6-button model. I think they have an 8-button model as well. So that plugs right into USB, and you can check out the little parts section in the guide here to find out more. Go to the official page for that and look for some retailers. It will work with the same controllers that all of these emulators on Fruit Jam that Frank's been involved with have already. So PlayStation DualSense controller, some of the 8BitDo controllers, the SNES controller, mine's over there, SNES-like USB controller. I have not tried this one with I2C NES and SNES controllers, these ones that use the little Wii adapter. I assume they work. I think they do. And I included that section from Frank's GitHub, some info about that in the guide. So you can use these as well usually for player 2. In a lot of games that won't show up as a player 1 controller. Software installation here, similar to before, we'll take our Fruit Jam, put it into bootloader mode, grab the latest UF2 release from this GitHub of Frank's right here. So you can go check out the release notes on that, check out the code and more. But if you go get the release latest, drag that UF2 on, you're up and running. You'll format a micro SD card, and then you can put both the ROM files. And fun fact, most of these emulators, you can name them anything from .bin to .md for Mega Drive or .gen for Genesis. It actually doesn't matter if it's a playable ROM. I don't think it looks at the extension, so that's more for your own organizational needs. You can name your NES files .nes. You can name your Genesis files .gen. However you want to keep track of things, but it doesn't really matter to the emulator. Here's the link I have to some of these really neat homebrew ROMs. People are still making games for Genesis and Mega Drive in 2025, so you can go check out some of these links for some cool projects. And one of these has a lot of dev resources, this awesome Mega Drive. GitHub has a bunch of links to programming frameworks, toolchains, engines. There's a link to different ROMs that you can, projects that you can go check out, articles about how the Genesis works, and on and on and on. So this is a really neat resource if you want to find out more. As far as frameworks go, there's one caveat, which is the SGDK, Sega Genesis Development Kit. SGDK is a very popular one for building. I haven't checked it out, but it seems like it's a popular one for building modern games for Genesis. Those do not load into the emulator. So some do, some don't. But the vast majority of commercial games, if you've got legal ROMs, those will work. If you check out here, Fruit Jam setup, one thing I did a little different, as you can see, is I used the snap-fit case that the Ruiz brothers designed that you can buy from the Adafruit shop now. It's professionally 3D printed, I think, on a some sort of a sintered laser sintered stereo printer, I think, by JLC PCB. That's who's making these, or PCBWay. Has a nice finish on it. It's probably a little post-processing before it leaves the factory. I just 3D printed on a normal FDM printer this Sega Genesis logo. You could, of course, print a sticker, print an inkjet and tape it to it however you want, but I realized I'm going to start getting confused about which case is what. So I did that one, and then I just did one in gray as well. And this could be printed in one go if you want. I printed this one, but I added, if you look at this down shooter, I just printed that as a separate thing. This is easier because this case prints in this orientation, and my little sort of 3D nameplate prints in a vertical orientation for NES, not SNES. So that's how I've got some differentiation going on among different Fruit Jams running different emulators. So that's your optional logo file. You can grab that there. You can see it getting all nice and plugged in. One caveat about this, which I just added to the guide on Frank's request, there were two. One is sound is not working great. So probably the onboard speaker, which is how I've been playing it, is a better bet than headphones, for example, or plugging it into a big stereo, just because it's crackly. I think there are some limitations right now, at least, to emulating the FM chips that are the famous sound of the Genesis on the 2350. What was the other caveat? I have it right here. Caveat 2, save games are not yet implemented. So I think on the NES, if there were any cartridges with save, it'll save those, but for the Genesis one, it's not. And then here it is up and running. There's that Project MD. So you get a similar thing, little splash screen. You get a selection screen here where you can pick whatever ROMs you have. You can organize these in folders too. I haven't. So. And, oh, that's interesting. Someone said they're not getting sound on YouTube. Let me just check my stream health. How you doing? You healthy?
Audio, and I think it
Looks like it. Okay. Maybe check your system. Who was saying that? Hesitant Road. Maybe check your system, either YouTube volume or any muting that's going on. But if anyone else is noticing that, let me know. I have sound, says Starman. Okay, so maybe, yeah, and also sometimes if you have like two YouTube windows open, then they can kind of cause weirdness if you went to like one site but then opened it. Watch out, that can happen. Okay, and there is the menu select. Frank did a nice job, by the way, on that controller, which I keep pointing, I have it over there, and I'm going to show it over there, so I don't feel like pulling it off. But it's a ABC, or what you use. There are no 6 button games implemented on this emulator, or at least 6-button support isn't in the emulator or the controller. So ABC buttons. There's a mode button on that retro bit controller, which acts similarly to the select button on a SNES style controller or other. So you can still do like macro level things of hold that and hit the D-pad up. That'll add scan lines. Down will remove them. Right gets rid of audio, I think. You can, I think, or is that actually, that might be going out to the, yeah, that gets rid of audio and brings it back. You can also use button 1 on the Fruit Jam for that. Mode button and start button at the same time, I think that's what jumps back out of the menu. So when you get frustrated and die, unlike old days where you just had to continue playing it because it was the only cartridge you had, here you can immediately pop out rage quit and pick a different game. Oh, Hesitant Road said they have sound back after restarting their Xbox. Weird. Thanks for the update. All sorts of weird stuff going on with Xbox lately, huh? If you didn't see the news. Yeah, so here's the menu stuff I was just talking about. It does have box art, metadata screensaver implemented, which is what you see playing behind me back there. And it also has metadata when you press when you press start on one of your ROMs, it'll bring up any standard metadata that exists for it. Here's how to get it up and running. And here's a little preview of something I'm going to talk about later, which is getting the Fruit Jam DVI out to look good on a CRT television, which is not straightforward. I will talk about straightforward solution for proper DVI HDMI stuff. This will work well for that, and I'll show that. But what I've learned is that with all of the shenanigans going on, getting something close to but not quite proper timing, frequency, not sure. But the HDMI DVI video coming out on the Fruit Jam, at least for these emulators, will not convert nicely. It tricks the box into thinking it's a resolution. It's not, and then everything goes haywire from there. So I'll show you, I'll show you an elaborate and not super practical solution because you have to go hunt down old equipment for it, but I just want to show it working anyway. And maybe that's something that'll change in the future, either with that signal getting fine-tuned to the proper frequencies. But anyway, I'll show you what I'm doing to get that looking good on CRTs. And that is it. Yeah, so that is the Learn Guide for Fruit Jam Sega Genesis. Okay, so let's move on to what I was just talking about. So if you look over here, I've got, let me do this 1 second. Sure, let's do a bench view there. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I'm gonna head back there. And set the water over there. Oh, that's right in front of everything. I'll set that over there. Bring up the Discord. So let's start with when this does work. So if I use something like this converter, and boy, that camera is dark. Why is that? Is that just my lighting? Let me see if it'll let me adjust. Nope. Okay, well, we'll live with that. That's kind of dark. So this type of converter, this is a decent quality one. We sell these in the Adafruit shop. There are cheaper ones on Amazon. There's an identical one to this on Amazon. I think it has a name here, but you'll see this same logo. So this is a HDMI to S-video and composite video converter. I think it'll do either one or the other because you have to flip a switch to say, okay, let's convert downscale from HDMI video to something that can be seen on a composite or S-video, usually 480i, 480 lines interlaced. The HDMI incoming, I think, can be a few of the different standards. So 480p, 720p, 1080i. I think that's what it's expecting to come in here. And then you can pick to go out of either the composite video, this yellow one here, which has integrated sync and color and luminance all on one wire basically, or S-video, which breaks that out. So you get chroma on one and you get the sync on the other, which makes it sharper. That's why it looks better. So this one, if I grab something that has a proper HDMI signal, and I'm just grabbing a little mini console just to confuse things. So this is one of these. Essentially, it's an Android in a box with an official emulator from Nintendo. So this is a little NES Mini. So if I take this and untangle the cables, story of my life here. Okay, so let's give this power. So that just has HDMI out with a funny upside down HDMI jack. So I'll grab HDMI cable. And I'm going to feed that into the little scaler box. I'll power this. So here I've got another, I'll just use the composite video because it's easier to access. Front of this TV has a composite in. That's not what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing right now is S-video. So I'll plug in a little yellow cable there, set this to CVBS, which is the composite video signal, NTSC standard, because I'm in North America. So this should be a 1080i, I think, or a 720p signal coming out of the Nintendo, and now it should be getting converted to 480i. And if I switch this TV to input 2, there you can see that's the little guy there. So it looks nice. So my first thought on Fruit Jam would be, hey, if I plug in to that, since we're doing DVI, HDMI video, we should get something like that, which is terrific. Particularly because a lot of these things do have a 4:3 ratio, so they look good. They don't look squished on the TV if you can set them to that ratio. So if I do try that, you can probably guess where this is going. The scaler does not seem to properly recognize the incoming signal. So I'm going to take this same Genesis, and I'm just going to unplug. So this is the Fruit Jam running the Genesis. It just says 576p, 60 hertz. So it thinks that this is a resolution that it is definitely not. So this is scaling to something that the TV can't handle. It's a mess. It won't fix it by flipping things, but sometimes you'll see the image change if I flip some of the either S-video or NTSC PAL buttons around. So that's not working. This could be an interesting thing if someone wants to look into the PIO HDMI is it PIO? I think it's PIO HDMI or HSTX. Sorry, the HSTX DVI on the Fruit Jam or any RP2350. Can that form a proper, super proper HDMI signal that a fussy box like this can deal with? Monitors, especially TVs, flat panel TVs with HDMI, they seem to have no problem with this signal, but these little inexpensive boxes, they get fooled somehow. So what I'll do is let's unplug that HDMI and go into the scaler box that I've got here, because this is, This is the solution that I came up with for getting this going. So what you'll see here, this is the fruit jam, and it is going out through a HDMI distribution amplifier so that I can see it on multiple TVs. So I've got it going out onto a flat panel as HDMI. So that's the straight up HDMI coming out of the fruit jam. And then over here, it's gone through a scaler. And that's this little box here. I'll show it on the computer since you can't see it here. And let me zoom in that camera a bit from here if that'll work. Okay, so in your corner of your screen, you should be able to see I've got it's this little box right here. The thing below it here is my HDMI distributor, but this thing up here, this is a video scan converter. And so what it's doing is it's the trick I have, and this actually could be a nice solution depending on the type of TV you have. The trick I have is I'm going through a inexpensive HDMI to VGA adapter, which I'll just show it on the screen. I don't want to pull this all apart. But there's a little dongle. We sell it in the Adafruit shop. I think it's like $24. And it takes HDMI and it goes out to VGA video. So it gives us analog RGB color and then horizontal sync and a vertical sync. So that's what the VGA is. This box takes that in and allows me to output anything from component to S-video to composite to RGB with a single sync line. So all of that is going through this box. And these are not made anymore, this particular brand. There are some modern things made, like I'll point to some on the computer when I get over there. But I think these are still in the $50 to $100 range, so you wouldn't get this unless you had some big needs for some retro gaming fixes. But one of the cool things about this is if I go, let me go ahead and launch Sonic the Hedgehog here so we get a full screen, and I can pause that. And so this is Fruit Jam running the Genesis emulator. I'm going to turn off audio. And let me start it and pause it so we get a, there we go. So, let me go to where we get a slightly more interesting screen. There we go, I like that. So here you can see the scan converter is doing a few things. It's downscaling the 720p or 1080i image that's coming into it. I'm not sure if this will tell me. And it lets me output to different sync styles. So your composite, component, which is 3 cables, RGB-S, which is 4 cables, S-video, all of those can come out of here. And we can also do things like move this around, which often is hard to do on the TV itself, or sometimes not even possible, which is super annoying because sometimes you just, you just want to move that image and scale it. Let's say this needs to, for the geometry of the TV, it needs to get to a certain width. So you've got some nice, you can't go wild with it, but you've got some nice adjustment for just fixing things up. Same with vertical, so I can turn a dial and change the vertical position and scale of that image and get it right where I want it. So this is accepting a 1080i image. I believe that's the nicest image this TV can do. Pretty typical for most consumer monitors and even a lot of PVMs and BVMs. Sorry, I'm hiding behind the little window that I stuck there. But that seems like a magic combo, and it works. I've got a second one to show you here, which is really cool. This is a new emulator. Also, Frank Hodemakers has been putting together, I think it's called JPPPoW is what it's based on. So he's got this running on Fruit Jam, done a bunch of work to create things like these borders, different border patterns. Let me try to remember how you set those. Is it, no, not that, not that. No, no. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll try some more combos. That. No, no. How have I forgotten this quickly? Okay, go back out. Let me start it again. But so anyway, this is a Game Boy game. New version of it that he's got coming has Game Boy Color as well, which is really cool. And oh, there it is. What was it? B. Select and B. Okay, this is pretty cool. This gives you either this sort of Super Game Boy style, because it's a tiny little 256 by 225 or whatever the screen is on the Game Boy. So we have that as a little bezel around it. This is a random background from metadata. I think one of them is related to the game itself. So you can just pick through these and get, hey, that's cool, little dragon thing. But there we are playing whatever Game Boy game. Go out here, let me launch our good friend Tetris, and it picked a random background. It'll remember your selection when you power it down to, I believe it's saving that, which is really cool. And I've just got sound turned off, so you're not going to hear the but super cool, and you know me, I love it on a CRT. This is a nice 27-inch, I think, this one here. You can also see different video sources may get positioned differently, so noodling continues. I'll noodle with that there to get that where I want it. I'm also surprised, but not flickering the CRT on this video, which is pretty amazing. I do have contrast brightness turned down a bit on this just to kind of preserve the TV, and obviously you can see a modern LCD panel, way brighter, way sharper, but I love it anyway. The sort of final, I'm going to go here where I can, I'll zoom this out. The sort of final goal with some of this setup here with these downscalers is to take 240p games, so those were 240 lines progressive, so all came on at once, so the second line is just not there. You get the nice thick scan lines of that missing line, and it just looks right. It looks really nice. There are some boxes that I don't have a proper one right now that can essentially remove that line and make the 40i image look like 240p if the source is proper. So not sure how possible that'll be with the emulators. Should be possible with some of them though, I think. And then the last thing, this is something I'll be using later but I am excited about this HDMI switcher, which allows me to take 8 inputs and go out to any of 8 outputs. So I can set input 1 to both screens, input 2 to both screens, and mix and match. So that'll be something I'll use for some upcoming stuff. I'm excited about that. So that's where I'm at with that. Let me see if there was any questions. Is this Sony image tilted? Yeah, this is slightly rotated internally. I need to actually pull that apart and rotate the yoke a little bit. So essentially the tube has an internal rotation that I don't think is fixable with service menu stuff. I'll try that first, but sometimes you actually have to just rotate the yoke to get that square again. Some Nice says, I honestly don't miss the days of Component Composite S video. Yeah, I get it. All right, so that's that. That's what's going on with those. But for me, I think a lot of these emulators are fun to just play any way you can. But if you're trying to recapture a certain look, then how to get it out to a CRT becomes a question. So the two things, maybe 2 or 3 things I want to show you related to that. One is this HDMI to VGA dongle. This is, here we go, $18.95. That's what I'm using on the outputs to the CRT from the Fruit Jam. So Fruit Jam through this gets me part of the way there. And if you have a CRT display, VGA CRT old computer monitor, there's a good chance that this is all you'll need, and so you might keep your eye peeled for one of those on a sidewalk if you get lucky. The converter that does work for properly formed signal is this one here, and that one's nice because it does S-video out, which is sharper than the composite. And then the thing I'm using is a Extron video scan converter 500, the scaler right here. You can see this thing probably stopped being made in the year 2000 or something like that. But you can find these and similar ones on eBay. So on the back here, it's expecting what they're calling RGB input, which is, in this case, I'm using a VGA, so red, green, blue, and horizontal and vertical sync. I think it'll bring in other analog RGB. And then the outs there, what I'm using on that big TV is this S-video, but you can do just composite out of this one called video, or the three component ones out of the top Y, YP, YB, or go wild with RGB and sync. So that's that thing. There are other gizmos out there. Is it OSSC scaler? I don't have one of these. These are popular. I think some of these go in one direction, some go in the other, some go in both. But yeah, open source scan converter. I might get one of these sometime to see how it does, because I think these are for both the problem of, hey, I want to take my old analog signal games and get them up to a HDMI and be able to properly scale and get frame rates right and not introduce lag, as well as this other direction that I'm trying to go, which is HDMI into old 480i style. So check that one out, the open source scan converter. This is a great resource, by the way, this web page, retrorgb.com, absolutely the place to go to learn about any direction of scaling and converting and sync stripping and all that kind of stuff for retro gaming, Mr. FPGA gaming, anything that's related to that. That's a great site. Okay, is that enough on that? I think it is. Let's jump into, just briefly actually, back into our good friend Mickey Mouse here. So I've got a Raspberry Pi going now. A couple weeks ago I was showing you some Steamboat Willie images and video to look into dithering or not to play on e-ink. And let's go, not there, let's go here. So this is an e-ink display that I've got here. I'm just going to tweak the focus a bit. It's nice and sharp. This is just running off of a Raspberry Pi with the e-ink bonnet and a couple of cables to extend that connector. Let me just goose the white balance so it looks a little more like it does in real life. There we go. So this is the 800 by 480 display, I think is what this does. 800 pixels wide, 480 high. Original source material is more of a 4:3 ratio, so I've put some white bars on the sides there. And this is a non-dithered one, which is interesting because I was assuming I would want to go dithered because there is a lot of grayscale shading in the original, if you take a look at this here. But so far, this just black and white, no dither is looking the best, at least on some of the test frames I've done. And I'll show you what I'm doing to get this working. Let me bring up another window here. Can I add that? Sure, let's add that to this right here. Screen capture, new screen capture. I just have a terminal window SSH'd into the Raspberry Pi. Pardon the black hole for a moment. Let's do window. Configure. Terminal, where are you? There you are. That looks like it. Okay, yeah, so Slow Movie Pi is what I named that machine. Make that smaller. There's the Python code. So this is all using the Blinka, CircuitPython, e-ink driver, pillow to display image, and then this driver is the Adafruit EPD UC8179, which is this and the tricolor, I think, use that particular chip. And then there's just some differences in the code between them. So this is my setup here. I've got a couple colors defined, since that's all we get on this display. I've got some setup for SPI to talk to the display and other pins that are talking to the display. There's the display setup, so it's 800 by 480, controlling it over SPI, pin setups, tricolor set to false. You have to set this buffer for the black and the white. Oh, you're not seeing the code. There we go. Sorry about that. I made a new screen share and forgot to share it, so it didn't show up. So thank you for the note. Grab my water again. I'll scroll back up briefly in here. So this is the driver I'm using here in Blinka on the Raspberry Pi. So I can use CircuitPython. Here's some display setup. And really, this is just show one image, right? So the code is straightforward. It does deal with some scaling stuff if it needs to, but I'm giving it a padded image that is 800 by 480. I just made it in Photoshop, even though the original is closer to a 4:3 ratio. So I just want to show you, save this. This is a dithered image from a different part, I think. Oh, no, that's not dithered. Let's see. Test one. Whoops. Let it finish there. It must be a black and white one as well. Let's see if this one. Yeah, okay, this one I remember is a diffusion dithered, 67%. Think a similar frame. Let's run that. Oh, yeah, different frame, different part. And it looks terrible. I'm not sure why. It looked a lot better in Photoshop. So some mystery here about playing back this dithered image. In fact, I'll show you in Photoshop what that one. Yeah, there it was in Photoshop. Oh, that's pre-dither. But if I do my save for web trick I had done before. I'll keep this grayscale. Diffusion dither, 67%. Let me zoom in. Oh, go to black and white. Yeah, okay. Yeah, diffusion 67%. So that's a far cry from that there. Not sure what's happening. If anyone has experience with this, oh wait, you're not seeing the. Sorry, you're not seeing the dithered image. Let me change what Photoshop is pointing at. Screen sharing is hard. All right, so save for web. There we go. So that's what that dither should look like. You can see I've got what I really want to go for is solid black, where it's solid black. And yeah, why we're getting that as the image and that as the attempt by this display, I'm really not sure. So if anyone's got thoughts and experience with that, let me know, because that's going to be my next challenge, is seeing if I can get it dithered. Some of this stuff looks, I think, especially from this short, being hand-drawn animation with some nice thick lines, a lot of it looks great, just black and white, but I am going to also try to do a slow movie player with a live-action film, black and white live-action film, and that's going to really definitely have so much shading that I'm going to have to get a dithering strategy to work. Andy Calloway says maybe the format is wrong, grayscale or something instead of monochrome. Yeah, that could be it. That's a good question. Yeah, I'll try some stuff. I'll try some BMPs as well as PNGs. By the way, the original, let me go back to a web browser here. In Tom Whitwell's project, he played back from a MPEG file using, oh, that's not his. He played back from an MPEG file using FFmpeg. There you can see there's a nice image. So some really good looking dithered content there. Looks great. That's what I need to go for. So I was just trying out making individual frames, but I should also try like a real short edit of a movie and let FFmpeg try. I think it has a few different algorithms that I looked at, so we'll see. All right, yeah, but good suggestion on the format. So I will play around with making sure that I've given it like a 4-bit BMP and see how it takes that versus this PNG file. Excellent idea, thank you. All right, I think that is gonna do it for today. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Oh, someone says the default dither in FFmpeg is pretty bad. Toddbot just arrived on the scene. Hi, Todd. You're a little late. I will not recap. It was fun. Watch the replay. Okay. Thank you all for stopping by. Thanks for jumping in over on our YouTube chats. Hi, Tyeth. Thanks everyone over there. Thanks for coming by over in the Discord. What's going on? I didn't check, but I'm thinking that Foamy Guy probably has a deep dive tomorrow. You can probably check the blog or Discord later to find out. And then there may or may not be some Desk of Lady Ada videos going on this weekend. She's was not feeling great yesterday for sure. Tuesday, I'll be back with Product Pick of the Week. Wednesday, 3D Hangouts and Show and Tell, which Liz is hosting next week. Come on by, show your stuff, tell. And then there may or may not be Ask an Engineer-like videos after that. We will see. And then I'll be back next week with another workshop. So thank you everyone so much for stopping by. For Adafruit Industries, I'm John Park. This has been John Park's Workshop. Bye-bye.
Thank you.